So we are here this evening with Marjorie. Marjorie, you had mentioned to us a few things at an occasion where we met together for coffee, and I was really curious. You had talked a little bit about your parents and kind of how they informed what you're doing today. So, what did they do? What were their professions?
Well, I used to refer to my parents as the mayors of Washington, D.C., because they had magazines. One was called Dining in Washington, one was called Shopping in Washington. So,
Really?
as little kids, we went all over the city, and our parents would interview the people who owned the establishments and get pictures. And we were often in the magazines. And it was kind of like pre-PR. I mean, yeah, they highlighted everybody in DC, so they knew everybody there. So yeah, when I went into PR many years later, unfortunately my mother had died by then, but
Mhm.
it was like, that's a lot like what we used to do. I was like, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how old were you then? You say
Oh,
kids, you yourself.
kids. Oh, yeah. So I was born in Arlington, Virginia.
Huh.
And so then well, the shop was in Washington, D.C., and we lived right by the Washington National Cathedral.
Oh,
So from the time I was, I guess up until like, I think they started it the year they got married. That was 1960. And then they had a baby 9 months later, and they started this business all at once.
oh my
It's
gosh.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Now, was one of them an artist? Was your mother the artist?
She was
Right.
like, she was a professional illustrator. So she was like the illustrator for the Washington National Zoo. If you remember the fawns, Friends of the National Zoo, that's her. That's all her illustrations. If you go into the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, she has a huge mural in there depicting Lafayette Square, which I was actually going to do a documentary about my mom. I actually started it, went up to DC and interviewed the Chamber of Commerce, took pictures of it, talked about the mural, and then COVID happened. So I haven't gotten back to it at all. She was only not 54 when she died, and it she did so much work between now and then. I mean, on her Facebook page, Carol Stewart Watson, we have over 3,000 samples of art that she's done.
Oh, nice.
So I don't want people to forget. I am going to do a documentary. I actually took classes at Savannah Technical College in their film department, and had this big time producer TV film guy teach it. And so when I went up to Washington and came back, they all came over to my house, and he said, well, that's really good, but you shouldn't have done it on your cell phone.
Oops.
Oops. Oh, well. So anyhow, yeah.
So I don't know if I've typed her name correctly. Carol Stewart Walker, did you say?
Stewart, Stuart Watson, Carol Stewart Watson.
Okay.
She was really, she actually got her journalism degree from the University of Maryland, and then went to work for the Washington Times. Frank, have you ever heard of that? The Washington Times?
I have.
They're now
Absolutely.
now,
Yeah.
but she worked with Jacqueline Bouvier, Jacqueline
Correct.
Kennedy Onassis. They were both
Yeah.
reporters at the same time.
Yeah.
So they
Wow,
covered
that
the. Yeah. Yeah. I'm telling you, mom, and there she is.
Mhm.
They all knew her. Yeah. And then she found it before she got married and started Carriage Trade Publishing, which I named my company after. She co-founded the Georgetowner newspaper. So she has a lot of she just knew everybody.
I don't think she ever slept.
She did.
We need that documentary, Marjorie.
I know we do. Definitely. I know.
Get that documentary going.
I know. Make it happen. Yeah. So
Let me just ask a question about something that you mentioned to me some time ago, because I know you do a lot of public relations that we might consider mainstream, but I think you also do, if I'm not mistaken, crisis management. Is that, are you still doing that?
a lot. Yes.
What brought you into that? I'm so curious as to what sort of made you add that to the rest of what you're doing.
So as a publicist, we all always deal with crisis PR. There's always, it's not a matter of if it happens, it's a matter of when it happens. Stuff is happening all the time. And it was happening so much that I went, I'm giving advice out. I'm like, so I finally said, I need to get certified in this because I am dealing with people's reputations. So I got certified through the Public Relations Society of America. And so we're the official crisis media trainer for an association called Savannah Spills. It's a number of organizations on the river that all own properties that could have a problem spilling oil or something. So we do crisis media training. We have mock press conferences twice a year.
Nice.
And it's really powerful because I can tell you, nobody likes to get in front of a camera and say, read their statement, and then we fire off questions at them. And it really, this is what's going to happen. So they've got to get used to it.
Is there conceivably any type of a situation that you would say, I can't handle that? It's a little too deep. It's a little too maybe serious. Have you ever turned down anything like that?
Because when a crisis is happening, the good thing with the training that I got certified in, it's step by step by step. I mean, it is a process that you go through. You have to go through it. Did we freeze up?
We're sort of, you're coming and going a little bit. That's okay. You're live now.
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay. So, no, and I get calls at all hours. I heard you do PR. I had a, crisis PR, this happened. And first thing I do is say, we'll get an NDA and go from there. So yeah.
NDA is a non-disclosure agreement.
Yeah. But the Public Relations Society of America, the first thing a CEO says is, no, I don't want to say anything. But the PRSA has 4 very powerful questions. And if you answer yes to any of them, the recommendation is you do have to let the media know. So, I mean, there's a process. And the media and CEOs need to know it. They're very uninformed when it comes to the media. As at Frank, I'm sure you could share some horror stories with how CEOs.
I think we've talked about this on different occasions, but you have to be pretty persuasive, I'm thinking, in order to get some of these people who absolutely do not want to talk to the media to speak to them in a timely way, because having been in media, I know the first thing you do as a reporter is you're making phone calls and you want to talk to somebody. And frequently that's the last thing that they want to do. So you're at loggerheads unless somebody like, I guess, you step in. How do you convince them that this is in their best interest?
Well, I blame it on the template. This is what the Public Relations Society of America says. You can take the advice or not.
At your peril.
At your peril, exactly. So, because the media, it's not just the media now, it's social media too. People, they've got these cell phones and they're recording faster than the media can get out there. So PRSA says you now only have 45 minutes to respond to a crisis. Wow. So if you're not prepared, if you don't know who your spokesman's going to be, if you don't know where you're going to have, let's say you have a fire, like Pinova had a horrible fire, if they didn't have a first location and second location, it would be total chaos. And they could actually be criminally charged for negligence and not,
Okay.
work. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This is
It's
critical.
really serious.
This is not, yeah, well, think about it. This is very much a necessary part. So, of a corporation organization's safety net, really, right?
Oh, yeah.
They're this
Yeah.
is something, it's a must-have. So obviously you love what you do, Marjorie. It's just so obvious. How long will you do this, do you think? Um,
Oh, forever. I
yeah.
mean, yeah, I'm not retiring. Businesses need to know this. I do classes with the University of Georgia Small Business Development Center. I have a presentation that I put on, and unfortunately, they all leave there like, "Oh my God, I didn't know that." Yeah, it scares them, but at least it makes them go back and do an audit of what could happen, and they get their media list together, they figure out who the spokesperson is going to be, they create a holding statement in case something happens. You just With 45 minutes, man, you don't have time to think when there's a crisis. So it's
Right.
better to have it all planned out ahead of time. Yeah, we've got 10 steps that we pull them through, and it's pretty intense.
You know what strikes me as interesting, though, and we were talking a minute ago about your parents' introduction into the Washington D.C. area and all of the things they did, and you mentioned the date 1960, just as an example. You, through your career, have seen all of this change. It must be remarkable to you to think about what public relations looks like in the scene you just described versus what it was all of those years ago. What stands out to you?
So the first time I ever wrote a press release, my mom had just died, and um, the company had to morph because my mother was the talent. She wrote, she took pictures, and half the business disappeared. So my father ended up morphing the publishing company into a printing company. Well, they almost declared bankruptcy. Daddy almost had to declare bankruptcy because you just can't make that switch that fast.
No,
So
we imagine.
I
Right.
said, "Oh, at the University of Maryland, they taught us about press releases." So I wrote a press release, sent it to one of the papers up there. It wasn't the Post, Washington Star, maybe.
Good
I
bet.
still have a copy of it, and saying that we had been in business 30 years, celebrating 30 years. We're now doing printing. And the newspaper called us, and they came out and interviewed us, and we got this phenomenal full page article that I then took to and made sales calls with, and we turned it around. And I went, I've got to do PR. That's how I got started. I still have the very first press release I wrote. So when I incorporated in 1995, I was 2 years before Google, and I could see the writing on the wall with all this internet stuff coming. So we actually pioneered SEO PR. So from the beginning, it was all about keywords. It was all about showing up online, building your reputation online. So and we did that with press releases. We did it with photos. I mean, it's amazing how, yeah, I've seen a lot of changes, I think, for the good. I mean,
Yeah. Well, we're getting information faster, and people are on their toes more. There's less time to hide when it
well, yeah,
comes to
yeah,
anything really. Um,
yeah, yeah,
but
definitely.
so different from the 60s, as you were saying, Frank. A world, a universe of difference.
Light years.
Oh, yeah. They used to have the press conference. They'd have an event. Maybe the next day they'd have it. I mean, it is things have changed. Here's what I like most about 2023. I love, Frank, you're going to cringe when I say this because you have a lot of media background. I love that we can all be our own media now. I love that if you know how to optimize content, you have an equal, you can show up in the search engines.
Wow.
The media is still going to rank higher because they have more followers, but you can start to build more followers and rank. My website is Google thinks I'm news. So it ranks so high because it's really old and there's so much content on there.
Right.
Just like any of the TV stations, they have lots of content. So yeah, I show up in the search engines under news. So
Fantastic.
I can almost bypass the media.
Wow.
Right.
But I don't.
Right.
I don't.
Well, it reminds me of something somebody said to me a long time ago, which is, and this was, now we're going back probably to about 2000. He was the head of a broadcasting school that I worked for. He said, content is king. And
This is
that
content.
phrase, yes. And this is exactly what he was talking about, and exactly, I guess, what you're doing every day of your life.
And I launched my Open for Business show in 2000. I have a registered trademark with Open for Business, and it was entirely created for online. So we've been creating content, educational content. I would interview business owner after business owner as an excuse to build their authority in what they do. So I would interview them. They would share tips and advice if they're accountant. Here's the top 10 things you need to know if you're a small business owner this year. And it builds your reputation. PR is not great for promoting an event. It's okay, but really how people should use it is building your reputation. It's a slow build. It's not going to happen overnight. But
patience.
Huh?
And patience and perseverance.
Yeah, it is.
I think Danielle and I have been saying those things recently to each other.
Patience and persistence.
Persistence.
Boy, I have a story. My daughter was doing a PhD at Georgia Tech, and she went right in from her undergrad, and they pulled her in and didn't have to do a master's. They combined it.
Wow.
And it was 8 years. 8 years.
There you are.
And I tell you, there were times that it was really hard. But my God, she persisted. And boy, that has paid off for her.
Good for her. So what was her specialty?
Her undergrad was aerospace and mechanical engineering. And her PhD was in artificial intelligence and robotics engineering.
Oh my goodness.
I know. I'm so proud of
her. Well, now I feel lazy.
I'm telling you, AI is going to change PR. AI is going to change everything. I mean, I already can talk to chat and just say, create a social media campaign, write a press release. It can do all that.
Yeah.
It's going to change as we know all of this now. I'm interested. I've got to figure out how to get into the AI search engines to be included. So
is that a game changer?
Yeah, it can be. Yeah, it can be. But I'll figure it out.
I bet you will.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
Doubt it.
Yeah, it's really I spend a good part of the day keeping up with that kind of stuff. You got to be in front of it. I mean, it's really important for the clients that they're on the cutting edge. We are a nerdy company.
Now, you say your company, how many people do you have working with you?
I've got about 10 that we call the visibility team, and everybody has a very specific job. It's very, so some of it's so technical that you don't want one person doing it all. And the other thing I do is I have a lot of stay-at-home moms, and I have for almost 30 years. and I would train them in just how to optimize, how to do SEO, all the different areas. And it's been wonderful. I mean,
Mm.
it's been wonderful for them. I have been an online company, 100% online for forever. I mean, I guess a couple of years ago, it would be cool to be a green, 100% green company. Everything is online in the cloud. I've been up in the cloud since 2004.
That's incredible. When did the cloud start? Wasn't it like it
Like
was?
2000. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Basecamp has been around since then. And so we just have an online office. So when COVID came along, everyone's like, we got to work from home. I'm like, yeah. So
So let me ask you this, though. Now, so here we are in 2023. We just came through COVID. We've had a couple of tough years, but even that event that you had a few weeks ago about business in Chatham County, which was great. The question becomes, what's the road ahead, and what do you foresee? You're kind of a guru in so many ways about visibility, as you just said. Where do businesses have to be in Savannah in order to be sort of recognized, noticed, and patronized?
I can tell you, Savannah has been on fire a long time, but now it's nuclear. I'm telling you, the businesses that are here already, we're really very lucky. It is about to, I mean, it's just crazy. So what I say about visibility is I always like to do what we call a PR assessment and find out, of course, who your clientele is. I mean, there's some really big businesses, publicly traded companies, so it would be different for everybody. But the first thing we like to do is make sure when somebody Googles you, a good Q&A comes up and some background information, because if you're not online, are you even there?
That's right.
Exist, exactly. So we make sure that's up there and that their website is working and all that's figured out, and then create I wrote a book called The Reputation Matrix, and it shows how to create a year-long plan to increase your visibility, your credibility, and positive word of mouth in the community, because 92% of visibility of new business comes from word of mouth.
Still
That's
very powerful. Yeah, it sure is.
Oh, it's king. It's king, especially in community PR.
Yes. Right.
And I love community PR. I mean, that's, I just love it. Because I saw what a difference it made with my daddy's company and how it turned it around. And I went, small businesses have to know this. They have got to have access to this. This shouldn't just be for the big companies. We all need to know how powerful it is. And here's my big pet peeve now. A lot of people think it's all just social media. I'm like, no. If you look at how many followers the local media have, they're anywhere from 97,000 to 250,000 just on Facebook, just here locally. And then I always just say, and all you're doing is posting just on social media. How many followers do you have? Oh, I have 570. I'm like, which would you rather have? 570 people seeing it or 500,000?
Right.
And that's just online.
Right.
Yeah, but Frank, people, all they're saying now is social media. They are forgetting the mass media component.
Why do you think that is? Is it that they feel like they've now connected and they've got their own platforms and they just don't feel like going any further? But as you point out,
I don't think they realize they don't understand PR. PR, I have always said this, has a PR problem. It does. It has a PR problem. People
why? Why does it have it? But why?
Because what is public relations? What is it? that's why when I wrote my book, I said how to increase your visibility, your credibility, and positive word of mouth. People understand that. They do not understand the word public relations.
Mm.
So they don't get the fact that it's far and wide, that it's a lot. It's a lot of everything. No? Is that kind of it?
They don't understand that a lot of people still call it advertising if you get a news segment. They're like, oh, we got some free advertising. I'm like, no, it's public relations. So
Right.
they think they have to pay for it. Number two, they don't understand the mechanics behind it of reaching out to the editor's desk and the news desk and pitching your story. Once you understand that, then you have to understand what is a news story, Frank. You know that.
You are no, but you're right. I'm just, it's resonating with me as we're talking about this, because I have said to many people I know fairly recently that sometimes that's all it takes, is to reach out to a news organization and say, hey, we have this great event and it's happening at this time, and you're more than welcome to come by, and we'll do whatever we can to help you out. And that's really sometimes all it takes. It's that simple.
Nothing gained. Yeah.
Right.
And as a small business owner, they are preoccupied with staying afloat. They really don't have the time to figure that out or even understand it.
Exactly.
I've just done, for 30 years, I've done free workshops through SCORE, through SBA, SBDC, wherever I can give this information to people. I've got lots of free YouTubes online on how to do it and why you need to do it. So it is fun when somebody finally gets it. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, there they are.
Uh-huh.
There they are. But here's the thing with PR. You can get visibility, but if you don't have somebody making the sale and closing it,
Right.
I mean, yeah, it's a lot to be a small business owner. It's a lot, but it's worth it. I got to raise my daughter as a single mom. I got to be there for her. I would work very early in the morning, very late at night. I'd work at stoplights. I was always the one sitting there and the people honking. I was like, ah!
We won't tell anybody.
I know. That's against the law now.
Yeah. Well, that takes us to about 27 minutes, almost 28 minutes. So super fun.
Yes.
Yeah. So
you are a treasure trove of information.
Yes.
I'm excited about I can't wait to learn about your all's future plans.
We're working on it. It's going to be great.
Yeah. So, well, this is a great demo. I'm really happy with how this went. I mean, how do you feel? Marjorie?
I feel great.
Or Frank?
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
So what you'll do is hit end broadcast, but don't leave. Just hang tight. It doesn't disconnect us.
Okay.